Good morning, everybody. Another cold morning. Today, I've got a lot to catch you guys up on. In case you didn't want to sit through two very long lives, there was a lot that happened during those lives, and I'm going to give you the highlights of it today, so stay tuned. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am Crafting Journey. This is Stitch, my co-host. Welcome, like I said, welcome to the channel. And as you will see, if you want to watch to the end of the show, I will have my animals at the end. I always do a walk in the morning and do a little clip of the animals, but I'll save that for the end of the video. Got a lot to catch you up on today. I know a lot of you did not want to sit through very long lives, and I get it, but a lot of you did, and I really, really enjoyed having the company crafting while we listened to Darrell Brooks' antics, and there were some. Guys, you're not even going to believe everything that happened. I'm going to give you the highlights. But first, let me catch you up on some of the other trials that are going on. George Wagner IV is being tried for the murder of 8 members of the Roden and Gilly family. So the prosecution rested their case on Friday, and the judge told the jury, don't come on Monday. We're going to be putting stuff into evidence, and that's going to take all day. Well, it took all day Monday, all day Tuesday, and when I looked in on the courtroom today, they were still entering evidence. Oh, my God. Like, they're justifying each piece of evidence. It's crazy. And then the judge is ruling whether it comes in or not. Yeah, I've never heard of such a lengthy, like, usually at the end you put in some photos, maybe a transcript or two, but this is just beyond ridiculous. So I don't know if they'll get back to the defense portion of the trial. I don't know if the defense is putting on any witnesses. I don't know if George is taking the stand. We have no idea. Hi, Tootsie. What's going on, baby girl? You can sit in here with me. She's been sitting in here with me because I put the heater on. I have a heater right over here. Anyway, it's like a little faux fireplace. So that's the Wagner case. Now, what? What do you want? Oh, she just wants me to pet her. Okay. I'll pet her while I talk. Now, let's talk about the Matthew Terry case. Matthew Terry is on trial for murdering his girlfriend. They went out to a bar, they had a few drinks. He thought he saw her dancing with another man, and we watched the video of what actually happened. This guy walks past her, and in order to get past, she was like dancing with her girlfriend, just briefly, and this guy walks past her, and on his way to the bathroom, obviously, and as he's walking past, he just does it with them. I mean, it's a fun thing to do in a bar. You just join in with strangers. It's no big deal. Well, he made a big deal out of it and would not let it go. Even on their ride home, he kept bringing it up. She called her girlfriend back at the bar. She said, please tell him how innocent this was. He tells her, stop being ridiculous. Just get over it. It was nothing. So, and about 30 minutes later, she is found dead on the lawn in front of the neighbor's house. So, yeah, he had allegedly stabbed her to death. Her throat was cut from one side all the way to the ear on the other side, practically decapitating this woman. And they never found the knife, but there was a paring knife missing from the kitchen. Now, paring knife, I don't know if you know this, paring knives are those small knives that, it's usually the smallest knife in the block, but, probably made a very good weapon. I don't know. Anyway, allegedly, right? So we have testimony now. The state waited till the very last minute. First, they put on Monday. They put on a DNA expert and a blood splatter expert, and They are both from the FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement crime labs, and you're only allowed to submit so many samples unless you ask for an exception. So they had blood all over one, two, three backyards, three different residences, and then a fourth location where Matthew Terry was actually apprehended. Blood everywhere. So they just picked samplings of the different blood to send to the crime lab. And it all came back to be the, Matthew Terry, the victim, or both. So a mixture. Nobody else, no third party. So the defense, on cross examination of these two experts, pointed out each and every spot in the backyard that didn't get tested. Isn't it possible it could have been a third person? Who knows? It wasn't tested, right? So they were trying to put some reasonable doubt into the mind of the jury. Well, here's what happened. Despite the defense attorney's best efforts, I mean, she gave it her all to keep out prior bad acts. Like, this guy had a record. Back in 2017, up in Michigan, he assaulted his girlfriend at the time, mother of his child, an infant at the time of that this occurred in 2017. And the facts are so similar. I'm going to let you hear some of her testimony because it is crazy.
No, he was coming at me very quickly and aggressively to the point where I kind of backed off and braced myself. And I actually verbally said, what are you doing? Oh my God, what are you doing?
And when you said the words to him, what are you doing? What, if anything, did he do?
He proceeded to knock me into the front door that was behind me. And at that point, then we both fell to the floor.
All right. Do you mean he makes physical contact with you somehow?
Correct.
How does he physically contact
Just with
you?
his body, like just taking his whole body and pushing it into me.
And at that point, do you say anything to him?
I don't think I said anything at that point, no.
All right. So what happens next?
So then we're on the floor and he's just trying to keep me on the floor, and he keeps punching me wherever he can find access to punch me. So whether it be the face, the chest, the back, wherever. And he was a wrestler. And the best way I can describe what he was doing is trying to keep me in wrestling moves and keep me on the floor so that I couldn't escape.
When you say he's a wrestler, you mean like in the WWE, or you mean like a high school?
A high school coach, or a coach. Maybe it wasn't high school, but he was a wrestling coach. And I can't remember if he wrestled himself, but.
So you guys are now near the front door, and there's a fight happening on the floor. At any point, do you say something to him to try and diffuse the situation?
Yes. So as the struggle continues and I'm trying to break free, there was a point when I yelled at him. I said, I love you. Why are you doing this? And he said, no, you don't. Fuck you. I'm going to kill you.
All right. Do you remember those words specifically? No, you don't. Fuck you. I'm going to kill you.
I will never forget them. Yes, I remember.
So tell us what happens next in the fight.
He just continues to, for lack of a better phrase, beat the shit out of me. And I keep trying to escape. There is a point where I'm able to stand up, and he continues to punch me in the face. At one point, he gets me onto the floor, and.
Are you still in the same place by the door, or has the fight moved?
Nope, it moved through the living room, and then where I landed on the floor was, I landed face first with my upper body like on the kitchen tile, and then my lower half was on the carpet of the living room. And at that point, there was blood everywhere.
Where is the blood coming from?
I believe my nose. At that time, he had broken my nose. But I remember trying to push myself up, and he was on me. And every time I tried to push myself up, I couldn't grip on the floor because there was so much blood. And he would purposely put his weight on me and push me back down. So I was unable to get up.
And through all of this, are you fighting, resisting, trying to stop him?
Yes.
So what comes next?
So I remember laying there, and I was laying on my left side, and I remember seeing the trash can there. There was a black trash can. And at this point, he was taking both of his hands, and he was taking my head, and he was slamming it into the floor. And so every time he would do that, my vision would go black. And I thought he was going to knock me out or I would be unconscious or something at some point.
At some point, does there ever come a moment in the fight where there's sort of a break in the action?
Yeah. So after that, there was a time that he got up off of me for a short time and I was able to sort of sit up on the floor. And I remember just kind of having my head down and just, I was thinking like, holy shit, that, is this really happening? And I was really disoriented and dizzy. And I was hearing all the shuffling in the kitchen. And then the next thing you know, Mr. Terry comes around behind me and stabs me in the neck.
When you say he stabs you in the neck, do you know what he stabs you with in the neck?
I didn't see it, but it was a knife.
All right. And when you heard the shuffling in the kitchen, do you keep knives in the kitchen?
Yes.
So looking back now, when you hear the shuffling noise in the kitchen, is it the sound of someone rummaging in the kitchen looking
Yes.
for something potentially?
Sorry. Yes.
All right. So now you are still seated on the floor, and I want you to describe your position and his position at the moment when you feel something plunged into your neck.
So again, I'm sitting on the floor and I'm kind of just, again, disoriented, just kind of sitting, with my hand and my head in my hand. And then he comes around behind me and he wraps his arm around my neck and he stabs me in the throat with a knife.
So he's stabbing you from the back,
Yes.
wrapping around to describe.
Yes.
At that moment, are you armed?
No.
Are you even standing up to put up a fight?
No.
So now he stabs you in the neck with something, which you assume is a knife. What happens?
So at that point, again, it was just kind of the thought like, holy shit, he just stabbed me with a knife. Like I need to get the hell out of this house or I'm going to die in here. And so I remember standing up, and as I stood up, he continued to, try and stop me and try and punch me. I was able to get loose for enough time to be able to turn around, and directly behind me there was the garage door. So I was able to get the garage door open and run to the garage.
All right. Now you're in Lansing, so I'm guessing homes might be laid out a little different, but is there access from inside your home to the garage?
Yes, there's a garage door that goes into the garage.
All right. Well, we have those here in Florida too, so that's not so different. But at this time of the year in March, is it snowing in Michigan?
There was a light blanket of snow on the ground at this time, yes.
All right. So you now make for the door to the garage. And as you step into the garage through the door, is there a garage opener?
Yes. So I pushed the opener with my left hand as I was running out to try and get the garage door to open so I could escape that way.
And did the garage door start to open?
It did. And I ran towards it, but it was very slow. So I couldn't quite get under it right away before he was able to get to me again.
All right. So now you're waiting for the garage door open enough, and he attacks you again?
Yes.
Describe how he's attacking you again.
He was just trying to stop me from leaving. And we both fell to the ground at that point and somehow had rolled out of, the garage that was open down the driveway.
So now you've spilled out onto the driveway, like out in public.
Correct.
And what's happening there?
So we were rolling down the driveway a bit and I ended up in a position where I was under him and he was on top of me. He had used both of his hands to take my head and slam it into the cement multiple times. Sorry. So he had the knife and he had stabbed me 3 times in the right shoulder.
All right. So he's still armed with this knife, even though you fled out of the home and he's chased you.
Yes. And this entire time I'm screaming for someone to come help me.
At any point, do you realize that some sort of like neighbor or person nearby has responded to your calls for help?
Yeah, as I was screaming, I could very faintly hear voices across the street saying, get off of her, and just hear them talking. A lot of it I couldn't make out what they said.
All right. And so we're at a point where Mr. Terry and you are in the driveway. You're still fighting. He's still armed with a knife. Tell me what else he's doing and what you're doing in response.
So again, I'm screaming this entire time, that he's going to kill me and somebody please help me. But he had stabbed me those 3 times in the shoulder and he went to bring the knife down again. And I had reached up and I grabbed with my right hand the blade end of the knife in midair. And don't ask me how I did it. I just grabbed and I took the knife and I pulled it. Again, I'm on my back and I pulled it across my face. And I just remember thinking he was going to like stab my eye out or something as I'm doing this. But I was able to pull the knife enough over that it fell out of his hand and fell to the left side. And then I kind of rolled over it and tucked it underneath me so that he didn't have access to it anymore.
And so once you kind of tucked the knife under your body, rolled onto it, does he stop fighting with you, or does he still
No.
keep trying to get the knife?
No, he was still slamming my head to the floor. And he would reach down with his hand and he would try and like fish for the knife real quick. But then I would try to get up and then he would hold me back down again. And then, kind of just back and forth, like trying to fish for the knife, and I'd get up and he'd try to fish for the knife. And then he pushed me back down. And there was a point when he had gotten really pissed off because I was kind of, holding the knife with my arm as it's tucked under me. And he reached down and he bit me on the forearm here to try and get the knife loose from my grasp.
Is that the only place he bit you?
No. Shortly after that, after he fished a couple more times for the knife and couldn't get it, he reached down and he bit me twice on the side of my left cheek to try and get me to let go.
And throughout all of this, are you screaming and yelling for help, asking him to stop, putting up resistance?
Yes.
So does the fight sort of end at some point?
Yeah, so we didn't live that far from the hospital and stuff. And as the neighbors were, I later found out they were on the phone with 911 at the time. We could hear sirens coming. You could hear them coming from around the corner, not too far away. And when we both heard the sirens, that's when he got up off of me and ran back in the house.
And what did you do?
I got up and I grabbed the knife so he couldn't get it back again. And I couldn't see very clearly because my contacts were in, but they were all like covered in blood. But I ran across the street to the voices of the neighbors who were telling me to come over there, come here.
Terrifying, isn't it? This is what the jury hears last in this case. Then the prosecution rests their case. They put everything into evidence. The defense argues a motion for directed verdict. And this, I've explained this before, it happens at the end of every prosecution case. It's pretty much, you have to do it to maintain your appeals, for appellate reasons. You make the argument that in the light most favorable to the defense or to the prosecution, they didn't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, of course it was denied. Then they go to lunch, they come back, they do the closing arguments, the judge reads the jury instructions, sends the jury out. They're out for an hour and a half, come back, and here is the verdict.
Jury is present and seated. Everyone else may be seated at this time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good evening, I think, is appropriate at this time, but welcome back. My deputies have advised, well, first, my question to you is, were you able to select a foreperson? Who is the foreperson? All right, so that is Mr. Williams, correct? So my next question then is to you as the foreperson, Mr. Williams. Was this jury able to reach a unanimous verdict in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you have the verdict form?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you would please present that to the bailiff. Thank you. The bailiff will present it to me. I will review it, and then I will give it to the clerk to be published. Thank you. Today is the 15th, right? All right. I'm going to ask Mr. Terry, with your attorneys, to please stand for publishing of the verdict, and I will present the verdict to the clerk to be published.
State of Florida versus Matthew Lindsay. We, the jury, find as follows as count one. A, the defendant is guilty of first-degree murder as charged, and with further findings, during the commission of the crime, he carried, displayed, used, threatened to use, or attempted to use a weapon. So say we all, dated this 15th day of November, 2022.
No surprise there, right? No surprise. Now, here's how this works in Florida. There will be a second phase to this trial. He is up for the death penalty. And you saw it in the Nicholas Cruz case where he pled guilty to everything, but they had to have a trial to determine the sentence, whether it would be life in prison or the death penalty. And in this case, we've already had the trial because he pled not guilty. So we had the trial. He's guilty. Now we have to have the sentencing phase. This is where they're going to come in. They're going to argue, whether he had a mental disease or defect, all these things, because you can't put someone to death who has a mental disease or defect. So they have to put doctors on and CAT scans and all these things. And I don't know if that's going to happen here, but it may be very quickly, very quick. But the same jury comes back this morning, 9 a.m. They're going to start to hear the penalty phase of the trial. Yeah. So, and following which they will go out and they will deliberate whether to give him life in prison or the death penalty. This is another one. Just throw away the key. I really don't care what the verdict is. Just don't let him out into society ever again, because he's cruel and he's evil. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. Yeah. Okay. Then the Darrell Brooks case. Oh my God. For those of you who did not sit through it, let me give you some highlights. So we're watching, the case starts off, it's the sentencing hearing. We're supposed to be hearing from, the court always comes in and they introduce. She puts everybody's appearance on the record. Darrell Brooks is appearing by special appearance. We have Darrell Brooks, and he says, I'm Darrell E. Brooks. I'm here by special appearance. So here's what we're led to believe. Like, Darrell E. Brooks was not there for the rest of the trial. His representative, Darrell Brooks, was there. But Darrell Brooks, the defendant, wasn't there. So now we have Darrell Brooks, the defendant, there for a special appearance. So he moved the court to stay the proceedings pending an appeal. And she's like, I can't do that. You can't make that kind of motion when I haven't even entered your sentence yet. You make that after the sentence, which, I mean, you're done after the sentence. You just file your appeal. And I don't think he's got any chance in hell on an appeal. So he did not ask about subject matter jurisdiction. He let that one go. But he had another little, apparently he's been doing his research. He had another little script he had to go through. And she's like, I'm not even addressing all that. Okay, we're here today to hear from, your family, whoever wants to speak, and the victims. Okay. So that starts to proceed. And, she gives Darrell Brooks, not in open court, but she says, I'm going to give you the Zoom to give to your mom, and your mom can give it to all the relatives that want to speak that are out of town, and we'll hear them. But she says, but no, we're not going to listen to like one person with a whole family behind them. It's just going to be one person, so on the Zoom. And he's like, okay, I understand. And then he said, well, my, I guess the mother of his youngest child, who's 8 years old, would like to speak, but she might, if depending on the time, he says she might have the 8-year-old with her. Would you make an exception? And she said, of course, I'll make an exception for the 8-year-old. Of course, the 8-year-old's going to be there to draw sympathy. I don't think this judge has any sympathy for him. There's no jury deciding this. This is the judge. And there's nothing to decide. Does he get life in prison without the possibility of parole, or does he get life in prison without the possibility of parole? Is it going to be consecutive or concurrent? That's probably the only question. 76 charges. And anyway, so the state starts out by saying that they have divided the victims into 4 groups based on where they were in the parade, just so it has some kind of logic to what everyone's going to hear. So the first victims to speak were the Catholic organization that was there, the victims from the Catholic organization, and then the victims from the baseball team. And there was a child killed that was on the baseball team. So we hear from all of them. Oh, he looks cold, doesn't he? Hi, baby. I'm just going to put that up for you. There you go. He doesn't care. He's like, why did you mess with me, Mom? Now I'm awake. Okay. So she did not show juveniles. So she had instructed the media, do not film the juveniles. And they didn't. So there was a little girl speaking, and then following her, the victim advocate read a letter from another child. Another, I think, an 8-year-old. She read a child, and then she showed the drawing that the child had done. It was he had drawn an SUV and a candy bucket, and obviously, I mean, this kid was really traumatized. That was one heck of a drawing. But here's what happened while she's showing this drawing.
And I've been asked to read a statement by victim KKK. When I got hit by the car that day, it hurt a lot. I got hit on my right leg, and it still kind of hurts now and then. That hit changed my life, and it still scares me sometimes when I think about it. I also feel bad for the families who lost someone and everyone who died in the parade. And then he drew a picture of a SUV, and it's a car that hit me, and there's a little figure and candy bucket and bottle and me. So they handed that to me on behalf of victim KKK.
Your Honor, we need to take a break for a second, please. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
It's important. All right, thank you.
So I'm like, what just happened? It was so fast, like I didn't even catch it. I had to rewind to see what the heck just happened. And what happened was the prosecution, all of a sudden, the prosecutor says, we have to take a break. It's important. And like everybody, and you see Darrell Brooks, the camera's on him, and he's like looking around. He's like, what's going on? No, and I'm like, what's going on? So they all of a sudden the camera goes to the seal, and then it cuts off, and then they just put a thumbnail up on the Long Crime Network. And so now I'm watching all different channels. I'm still live. I'm watching all different channels to find out what happened. So here's what happened. We find out that there was they didn't say bomb, but they said there was a threat to the safety of people in the courthouse. They had to evacuate the courthouse, bring out the SWAT team. That was my bottle of water. Bring out the SWAT team and clear make sure everything was okay in the courthouse. So this took over an hour. So if you watch part 1 of my video, I during that hour-long break, I actually show all of the testimony of the ex-girlfriend in the Matthew Terry case. So if you want to fast forward to that, if you want to see the entire testimony of this woman, it was pretty gripping. So anyway, after an hour or so, the feed comes back on. The judge apologizes. She says, she feels like it's safe to proceed. That, a call had been placed to the courthouse dispatch, making this threat. And a lot of people were conjecturing that, Darrell Brooks was behind it, and who knows. So then we listened to this for the rest of the day, the state's witnesses, and it was gut-wrenching. At one point, shortly after that break, at one point there was some exchange between the judge and Darrell where he gets upset, and he's, the usual banter back and forth, and she ends up having to put him in another courtroom.
Pertaining to the last speaker, I have an issue with, if it pleases the court, we can address it later, or if you want to address it now,
Mr. Brooks, these are sentencing remarks. I'm not going to interrupt those sentencing remarks to have you address him individually.
No, I'm not talking about addressing him individually.
Mr. Brooks, we're going to continue. I'm not sure what you could possibly bring to the court's attention about a speaker who's already made a statement.
A very valid issue that I can bring to the
You can
court.
put it in writing, sir, while you're sitting there, and if it's something I need to address, I will. But I'm not going to disrupt what's happening right now to address that. You need to put it in writing. All right, go ahead, Ms.
So put it in writing that
Mr. Brooks, please put it in writing.
that's
If you
the
need some
same,
paper,
that's the
then
same person you had to worked with the father of, right?
go ahead, Ms. Dunn.
Like I
The
said, the same
record speaks
person.
for itself. All of those issues were previously put on the record. There's no need for you to make any
That is him
commentary
though,
about
right?
it.
He did work with his father though, right?
Mr. Brooks, stop. If you interrupt me again, you're gonna risk going into the other courtroom. I'm not gonna have
So
you
you gonna hold me in
degrade
contempt?
the integrity of these proceedings
I'm not
and
attempting
the
to
solemnity of
cause a
what's going on
controversy. I
right
just
now
wanted to know
by
that
once again trying to derail what's happening and
and
take
you
the
always
focus
talk
off of.
about somebody trying to derail something as if that was the plan, like somebody coming
Mr.
here to
Brooks, I'm
derail
advising
something.
you to be quiet or I will clear this courtroom, and under Illinois versus Allen, you will lose your right to be present while the remainder of these individuals give their statements.
Okay, well, come on with it.
Once they start, I expect you to be
Come
quiet.
on with it, because that's what you've been waiting to do the whole time.
Piece of shit. Listen up and listen what she has to say.
All right.
God damn.
Sir, you're gonna have to be removed. I'm sorry. I can't tolerate that from anyone. Mr. Brooks, my admonishment to you is the next person's going to get up and they're going to start their statement. And if
Okay, yeah, but you
interrupt-
made it seem like I'm trying to purposely interrupt that,
Mr. Brooks,
and I don't think
I'm
that's
turning
fair
to
to do
them.
that.
Please be quiet.
Okay, yeah, I still have the First Amendment right to be heard and to speak. I still have that right.
Mr. Brooks, this is a sentencing hearing.
I don't
The
care
trial
what it is. You're not
All
going to
right.
continue.
He is arguing
You're
with
not-
me. He is now forfeited
not
his
gonna
right to be
continue-
present.
you're
Everyone
not
is to
gonna
clear the courtroom
continue-
while he's moved to the next courtroom, and I'll make the appropriate findings when I'm able to do that
So
without
can I get a
interruption.
finding of fact? Can I get a
I'm
legal
stepping
finding
off
of
the
fact?
bench.
Because I don't
There
agree to a
recess while that
stopper.
happens.
And within a very short period of time after he's in the other courtroom, I want to come back. After like one person spoke, he's like, I want to come back. And he said, no, he would not be disruptive. She brings him, now we have to take another break. She brings him back. And he was not disruptive for the remainder of the day until the very end. The prosecution put on all their statements, and the court asked the prosecution, because it was getting late. She said, go ahead and make your statement, and then tomorrow we'll start with Jarrell's family and the actual sentencing. So it was gripping, this prosecutor, what her speech. It was very good. But Jarrell he got really upset, and he interrupted her to say, you can't talk about me like that. And, he starts bantering with the court again. And they don't end up taking him out because he's like, I want to go in the other courtroom. I want to go in the other courtroom. She's like, no, you can't request to go in the other courtroom. Yeah. But here's what got to me was like, he is so stoic during all of this victim impact statements, which were just gut-wrenching, and he's going like this, and he's got his Bible out, and at one point he's praying, and he got ripped for using the Bible as a prop. And he said, unless one little girl says, you didn't repent, you're going to go to hell because you refused to repent. I'm like, ooh, wow, that came from a child. Wow. So that's where we left off. That will resume today at noon. I'm going to cover it live. If you guys want to join me, please feel free. We just all been grab our crafts. We're diamond painting, we're crocheting, we're, whatever it is you're crafting, or you just want to listen. Come on in. So I'd love to have you. It's I am curious. I'm sure it's going to be Jarrell's mother and some other people. Yeah. Interesting. All right, that's the down low on what's going on in live trials. If George Wagner trial picks up again, we'll pick up again with it. Yeah, I'll bring you all the highlights of the defense case when it does resume. Whether George Wagner takes the stand, I have a feeling he's going to take the stand, but I could be wrong. If he does, yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, as a lawyer, I don't know if I would. In this case, I probably tell him no. It's always good to tell him no, but because it's just going to get himself into trouble. He's opening himself up for all kinds of issues to come in. Anyway, but we shall see if who else they're going to put up. The defense is going to put on his behalf. He went back to sleep. Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope to see you in the live. Also, tonight I will be live at 6 p.m. Central Time for Craft With Me Wednesday, where I am going to have my friend from England, Kim Ballard. She's from the UK. She's going to be on. She's going to be showing us her miniature progress, and I'll be showing you mine, which is not much. Yeah, no, but tune in at 6 o'clock. I'll see you guys then. Bye.